Hello everybody, this is Lodge, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about how much Combat Evolved's campaign holds up after all of these years. The first Halo came out in November of 2001 for the original Xbox, and later for PCs. Then, 10 years later after that, 343 Industries remastered the classic for the Xbox 360. And this is basically the version that is being used for the Master Chief Collection, and the version you'll be seeing in this video. First, I want to talk about the controls. In 2001, there were very few first-person shooters on home consoles, and those shooters usually took place only indoors and with a controller that did not have two control sticks. So this game had a right to feel outdated 20 years later, but magically, Halo Combat Evolved feels perfectly fine today. The developers over at Bungie were able to create gameplay that still feels perfect today, which is almost unbelievable, but they did it so well. However, of course, there'd be some room for improvement, like how vehicle controls feel almost like you're always on ice and they slip and slide everywhere. It might just be me, but pretty much every single vehicle in the game just does not feel right, and that could be because of what Bungie did in their future games to make vehicles control much better. I don't know, I just think with how good Master Chief controls, it is a little surprising that vehicles do not control as nicely as he does. And now to talk about the weapons that appear in the game. Unlike future Halo titles, almost all the weapons in this game hold their own place in the sandbox. So every weapon is able to feel fairly unique to one another. The only downside of this is if a certain weapon does not appear in a level and you like to use this weapon a lot, it can make that level seem kind of like a struggle to get through. And just like Master Chief's controls, all of these weapons feel so good to use and shoot your enemies. Also, all the weapons have really cool designs. Some of them feel like military weapons that are 500 years of advancements, and others just feel really alien. I mean, one of the Covenant weapons shoots needles when they hit their target and they explode. However, since this is the first game in the series, there are some weapons that actually appear in the game, but only enemies can use them in the campaign, such as energy swords and field red guns. But yeah, all the weapons in the game are really fun to use, and each of them have their own uses, so none of them feel like padding or add fluff to the game to make it seem bigger than it actually is. Now the third thing I want to talk about was the story in this campaign. It is relatively simple, especially in 2001. There weren't many games that weren't RPGs that had such a grand feeling story like Halo does. I mean, it starts out with just fighting aliens that were chasing your ship. Then as you crash land on alien ring world and keep finding aliens on their own ships to save a captain, and then learning that the ring world is actually a weapon, but not the kind of weapon that would help in a war. And then you learn that there's a parasite on the ring, and that can only truly be stopped if...
The only way to stop the Flood is to starve them to death. And that's exactly what Halo is designed to do. Wipe the galaxy clean of all sentient life. You don't believe me? Ask him.
Is it true?
More or less. Technically, this installation's pulse has a maximum effective radius of 25,000 light years. But once the others follow suit, this galaxy will be quite devoid of life. Or at least any life with sufficient biomass to sustain the Flood.
Yeah, this game takes a lot of twists and turns. It could have been really similar to Doom in that you just need to fight aliens to survive and stuff. But I appreciate the levels they went through to make the campaign feel more interesting with each cutscene. And with talking about the cutscenes, we need to talk about the great voice cast that was able to give so many of these now well-known characters life. I mean, they were able to voice these characters so well that characters who return in later games keep the same voice actors. I am very surprised Bungie was able to get so many good voice actors for this game. Steve Downes and Jen Taylor, who voiced both the main characters, really give them a lot of life, even though one of them is basically a machine and the other an AI. Oh, and there are so many good lines throughout the cutscenes, some of which really give interesting and mysterious lines.
You already knew that. I mean, how couldn't you? Why would you hesitate to do what you've already done?
And others give some nice banter between two characters.
This thing is falling apart.
It'll hold.
We're not gonna make it.
We'll make it.
Pull up! Pull up! You did that on purpose, didn't you?
Oh, and I know I already talked about some weapons designs earlier, but I just wanted to say that all of the designs in general are really good. Like Grunts, good design. Elites, good design. Probably the best ever design for them. Master Chief, okay, I like his later incarnations better, but this one is still really good. The Halo ring, it's a...
Man, we let those dumb bugs out to the middle of nowhere to keep them from getting their filthy claws on Earth. But we stumbled onto something that's so hot for that they're scrambling over each other to get it. Well, I don't care if it's God's own anti-son of a bitch machine or a giant hula hoop. We're not gonna let them have it. What we will let them have is a belly full of lead and a pool of their own blood to drown in. Am I right, Marines? Sir, yes, sir! Damn right I am.
It'll be difficult to find some design in this game that I outright hate. Oh, and I can't believe it took me so long to talk about the actual gameplay. Fighting against the main enemies, the Covenant. They are so interesting. Each class in their army acts differently and actually reacts to what the player does. Like if there's an elite and a pack of grunts and the player kills the elites, the grunts will start to run away, and just simple stuff like that makes the game so replayable since every encounter can be played out differently based on what you do. Oh, and I love how each species is just so different from each other in terms of looks. It's just really easy to tell what you're about to get into. Oh, it's also cool how each enemy will kind of have certain weaknesses to a weapon, like Sentinels will go down with a plasma rifle, while with a Hunter, you can just use a sniper rifle or a pistol to one-shot them. And now onto some of the things I dislike in this game. The whole saving cabinet keys thing is dumb. Okay, I really like the concept of infiltrating an alien ship and saving Marine prisoners, but why do they allow the person you were supposed to save die? On harder difficulties, this can be really annoying since it can actually take them a while to actually follow you and do what you want to do to avoid enemies. Oh well. Oh, and also they let Johnson die too. This game just loves letting you kill characters no one wants to actually kill. Library is also kind of a dumb in concept. Just let me grab the key or teleport me to the end. The Flood aren't as fun to fight as the Covenant is, it's just more shoot them as they approach you. Oh, and the vehicle controls are just not as good as in future games. But hey, it was the first time they did it. There were bound to be some mistakes. I guess it makes sense why a lot of these problems do not reappear in future games. And that basically is my review of Halo Combat Evolved. Despite some of my gripes with the game, this game is really amazing and honestly surprising. It is still so good after 20 years of brand new games and even generations. If you haven't played this game yet, I wholeheartedly recommend trying it out on the Master Chief Collection. 343 is even re-implementing the original graphics that were lost in the Gearbox PC port, and I think if you give this game a shot, you'll really like it. And I'm sure I missed some parts to talk about in this game, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good day. Goodbye.